is a co-chair. We'll go on, we'll blank ourselves out moment our introduction is done.
Right.
So
Sure.
thank you everyone for joining this very first session of this year of CII Startup Buzz. I am delighted to have Ramanan in the first session as a speaker, and Tarana is a great moderator. She's going to moderate this session, something I'm looking forward to. Ramanan has had an illustrious career in the corporate sides. I've known him for many years, very successful as a corporate CEO. And then, importantly, he was the first mission director of Atal Innovation Center mission for Atal Innovation Mission for 4 years. He laid the foundation of Atal Innovation Mission. I mean, he has done many things, but one I'm particularly proud and delighted to share is what he has done as a mission director of Atal Innovation Mission. So thank you, Ramanan, for coming and sharing your thoughts on this very important topic, thinking big, starting smart, the art of startup beginnings. And Tarana, of course, we all know she has been in the VC world, in the investor space for a long time. She's a founding partner of Innovin, and she's been active in CII for the last 1 or 2 years, particularly in the startup space. So this is our first session on online session on CII Startup Buzz. We intend to have a lot more this year, so stay tuned. Hopefully, every Thursday we'll have some session, some experts, and we are so happy that Ramanan has joined today. Thank you, and thank you, Tarana,
No, of
for
course.
agreeing to moderate the session.
No, no,
So over
please
to
don't
you.
thank me.
Over
Thank
to
you. Thank you, Nanan. And thank you, Ramanan. I'm not sure, I thought I was going to do the intro, but given Nanand has done this, I think I'll best just jump into starting and, dive into the questions. So to start off, given your diversified experience, Ramanan, as Nanan mentioned, could you talk about, how you've instilled a culture of culture of innovation at, the various places you've been at CMS, which was a private company, then at TCS, which was public, and now at, been part of the government organization as well. How do you sort of instill a culture of innovation at all these places? How do you manage in case there are, like small organizations may have budget constraints, or at a large organization, there's an incumbent mindset, bureaucracy. So how have you sort of maneuvered this and managed it in your career?
Thank you, Tarana, and thank you, Ninad, for giving me an opportunity today to share a few thoughts on, I think, a topic which is very relevant, very important, and something that everybody can and should deliberate on, both the youngsters as well as people who are in the industry and who are matured from the industry, because they also play a very important role in ensuring that the startup culture that is growing very rapidly in our country has the ability to blossom and create an impact. Not only for India, but for the rest of the world. I've been very fortunate, Tarana, in being part of three entrepreneurial journeys, as I call it. I graduated from IIT Bombay in 1981 and was very fortunate to be considered by the Tata Consultancy Services, who came to the campus and recruited me. And at that time, coincidentally or otherwise, or as destiny would have it, there were only two companies which offered me a job. One was TCS and the other one was CMC. The TCS offer came much earlier, almost immediately as soon as I had finished the interview. And due to personal reasons, I had decided to stay back in India and not go abroad for higher studies, as was the habit of many other, or that as was prevalent by many other IITians at that time. And I have never regretted the fact. In fact, I have considered that has been one of the most important decisions that I took to stay back in India and to become part of TCS. When I joined TCS in 81, it was probably around less than 1,000 people. But today it has become a mammoth organization with 700,000 plus people. It is among the top 3 IT consulting and services company in the world. But I think the theme that this particular startup talk resonates beautifully with my own experience, though it started off with a corporate and a private sector with TCS. They thought big, they dreamt big. They dreamt that we should be among the global top 10 by 2010. And that vision of dreaming big and that vision being embraced by the entire organization, and not just by the management, because it is easy for management to coin a vision and to put out a vision, but it is very important for an organization and an entire organization to embrace it. And I think that illustrated beautifully the possibility of an organization and the team, which started off very small, but which has ended up into a very large organization, embracing that vision. The second part of my entrepreneurial journey was with CMC. CMC was a government-owned organization that was offered for liberalization. During the liberalization regime, it was offered for privatization. And TCS and the Tata Group bid for it. We had high respect for CMC because it was one of those few organizations which had made an impact at a societal level. They had created the many IT systems, for example, the railway reservation system for Indian Railways, which was one of the largest railway reservation systems in the world. They had computerized the Bombay Stock Exchange, the first trading system called Bolt that was implemented. Also CDSL, which was a depository, the first depository. So there were many firsts in terms of what this organization had been able to do on the Indian market and on the Indian society with societal impact. And so they were a product-owned organization, but they had fallen into some bad times due to a wrong focus, from focus of being a solution, innovation-oriented organization, which they were in the initial stages. They went on to accept many projects which were not exactly aligned with their core competency. So the challenge in that acquisition and subsequent transformation was a great learning experience for me. How do you take a public sector organization and convert it into a large global systems integration organization across the world? And that learning was crucial in the next stint that I had with the Atal Innovation Mission. So CMC ran as an independent organization, 51% owned by the Tata Group, 49% by public and financial institutions. And in 2016, it got amalgamated with TCS fully. Because it had grown to a point where it made sense for both organizations to work as one and as one integral unit. It was at that time that the Atal Innovation Mission was formed. Now, the Atal Innovation Mission was a dream project. Even in CMC, the idea was a think big beyond the confines of what they were. They were a government-oriented organization, an Indian domestic organization, and then converting it into a global powerhouse of system integration and capabilities. That was a mindset change that was required for the organization to be able to move from that particular position that they were in into a truly successful large organization. At Atal Innovation Mission, the dream was even bigger. The impact that the Honorable Prime Minister wanted to make was, how do you create an innovation and entrepreneurship-oriented India? How do you create a culture of innovation and a problem-solving mindset in the minds of the young? We are a very young country. We have more than 1.4 billion people, but 65% of our country is under 35 years old, and 50% of our country is under 25 years old. Now, how do you take this thriving demographic dividend that we have and convert it into a transformative power for innovation, entrepreneurship, and for positioning India in the future? And again, we started off as a very small team at the Niti Aayog. I was very fortunate to be considered by, I think also because of the experience that I had gained in a private sector and in a public sector organization like CMC, the ability to be considered for this particular mission director position. Now, the dream of this particular Atal Innovation Mission was not only to be able to make an impact at a school level, where young students are graduating and moving into universities, be able to induct a problem-solving, innovative mindset and a tinkering mindset into the young students, but also to create an ecosystem that will support innovation, entrepreneurship at the university level and at the industry level. So there were a series of initiatives, and you would be surprised to know it started like a startup. It was not an organization. In the previous cases, both were decently sized organizations that I have worked with. But in Atal Innovation Mission, I started with a team of about 4 to 5 people. And we all started from the grounds up on this. And it grew rapidly because the idea there's always a time for a particular idea to bear fruition. And I believe the Atal Innovation Mission came in at the right place at the right time, with the right type of management structure that was required to support it. The Honorable Prime Minister was a great advocate and is a great advocate of technology and innovation. The Niti Aayog, where it was housed, with the leadership of people like Amitabh Kant and Mr. And the chairman, vice chairman, Rajiv Kumar, we all had a wonderful team that saw how can we boost this innovative entrepreneurship culture and create an ecosystem, a vibrant ecosystem that would enable us to be one of the fastest growing startup nations of the world. And today you are seeing that in action. We are one of the third largest startup ecosystems in the world, and we are one of the fastest growing economies of the world. So that is a great combination that has come together, a fast growing economy that we have, one of the demographic dividend that we enjoy, a very young country which has a powerful energy coursing through the country because of the youth, and that is a transformative energy and something that is infectious, which can easily catch on and take advantage if you are able to empower them with tools, technologies, resources, and so on. And we also have technology which has become a great enabler, technology which is becoming advanced, available, accessible, and achievable. So all these combinations are you're seeing in effect today, and therefore it's a startup world in India. And I feel very excited about what the possibilities are in India and how we all can contribute to that growth.
Okay, great. No, thank you. This is helpful. So coming, like we said, the topic itself is, thinking big and starting smart. So given this experience of yours and having built these businesses and, what you've done with the initiative at Atal Mission, what would be your learnings and advice to founders as they look to build today? Given how should founders leverage incubators, accelerators, sort of what is the best way to sort of move forward for them to build something big in your mind?
Yeah. So first and foremost, Tarana, when we talk of a startup and so on, you need to have a solution for a problem that has not been solved before, or for a problem that has been suboptimally solved. And the solution has to be unique in the marketplace. It cannot be one of those solutions where you have 100 other solutions which are also there, and you have not compared or you have not found out whether those solutions already exist and what is the status of those solutions and how does your solution compare to that. So you need a great solution. Now, every startup has to start off with a solution that they have in mind and a solution that is scalable. If you want, you have to dream big, as the theme suggests. Abdul Kalam very famously remarked, dream big and you'll achieve great things. Dream small and we'll be limited by our own dreams. So it is very important for a startup who is thinking that I need to create a solution that is scalable, that is unique, and that is sustainable also, because you're not going to have a solution that is not sustainable from the point of view of not just financial sustainability or the startup sustainability, but also from a societal sustainability. How does it impact positively the society? So this has to be kept in mind, and that solution becomes very important. And it starts off with an idea, and that idea can be converted into an innovation. In order to support that, you have now over 700 incubators in India. These incubators are like Atal incubators. You have about 100 Atal incubators. You have more than 150 DST, Department of Science and Technology incubators. You have incubators from BIRAC, which is the Department of Biotechnology. We have from MeitY, which is the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. I think the government has put in a tremendous focus on creating that ecosystem of support through incubators, which are there in universities and which are also there in private institutions. And a startup can house themselves in one of these incubators because that provides them an ecosystem and provides them the support for overcoming many valleys of death, as they say in a startup's life cycle. There are many valleys of death, starting from funding support, angel funding support. Very often you will not find venture capitalists willing to put angel funding, other than companies like 100x VC, which Ninad is he has founded it, and there are now many more VCs that have come up which are supporting angel funding. But you need to take this angel funding and you have to come to a point where you are able to stand on your own feet and you become investable by large investors, by venture capitalists, and so on. And that is where an incubator comes in to be able to help you overcome many valleys of death between the point of you creating a prototype of an idea of a solution to it actually being market ready and being acceptable to the marketplace. The second thing that is very important for a startup in order to succeed in this marketplace is agility. You need agility because today you have too many startups who may be there competing with you on the same idea, or who can rapidly catch upon your idea and see how to improve upon that. That agility comes with a couple of other things. One is leveraging technology very, very effectively. Technology has become affordable, accessible, and available, and advanced. Your 3D printing, robotics, IoT, miniaturized electronics, augmented reality, virtual reality, and AI all coming together. And how do we leverage technology for not just creation of the product of the startup, because a startup doesn't necessarily have to be a technology-based startup. It could be addressing a problem, but it will still need to leverage technology to be able to enable that solution to reach the marketplace from a marketing point of view, from a communications point of view, or from a service point of view, or from a support point of view. So leveraging technology gives agility for the startup and an ability for it to be able to achieve their desired result. The third is, in a startup world, you're not going to hit the solution, the right solution, or the ultimate solution in the very first place. It doesn't happen. There has to be a constant re-engineering, there has to be a constant reinventing of your product or your service, and also keeping yourself aligned with market trends and business trends. Now, take, for example, AI. AI has suddenly burst into the scene over the last couple of years.
Yes.
And every customer is now experiencing the power of AI in some form or the other from products and services in the marketplace. If you're not agile enough to be able to adapt to this rapidly escalating trend of AI being integrated into your product or your service will soon find itself out of the market. So ability has to be combined with agility, and agility has to be combined with an action plan. And that action plan has to be continuously revised or improved upon through measurement and monitoring in order to make sure that your product and your service remains relevant in the marketplace and remains ahead of competition. So that's very important for a startup. Very often, look at e-commerce. The way e-commerce has evolved and e-commerce startups have evolved from the COVID time, which actually gave them a platform to be able to launch products and services out into the market when people are not able to come out of their houses, to now you have Blinkit within 10 minutes is able to supply your most convenient, very convenient manner the product. And so this evolution, and now you'll see that all the other e-commerce players are rapidly adapting to this demand from the marketplace. Like, within 10 minutes or within 9 minutes, how are you going to deliver a product when somebody else is doing that? The fourth thing, which is very important from a startup world, is having the right team. In a startup, the founder or a couple of founders, I always encourage that you should have more than one founder for a startup, for the very simple reason that you will have two different people bouncing off ideas, and you have a stability to the startup which disappears if the founder suddenly loses heart and he gives up on his idea, and that idea is a good idea to be carried further. It doesn't get carried forward. So it's very important to build a team, and the team becomes a very important factor in the growth of this particular startup. So finding the right team, finding the right people who complement your skills, not only from the founder's point of view, but also finance, management, internal communications, external communications, marketing, and the IT systems that need to be there in the startup. These all require different types of expertise, and you need to have a right team which will be able to be take and has the same passion as the founder. If they don't have the same passion as the founder, then you're going to have again a problem. But how does that passion come in? It doesn't come in just like that. It comes through constant communication. It comes through engagement. And that is what I learned also in TCS and CMC. these are common, whether you're an organization like TCS or Infosys, or you're an organization like a startup. The ability to bond together as a team and work together as a team, and accept the vision of that organization, however small it is, and then scale it up, is totally dependent on the team's embracement of that vision and the ability to act upon it. In a startup world, the fifth important point is utilization of resources. A lot of it's not a question of is value versus valuation. Are you creating value, or are you looking for valuation? Unfortunately, many startups pursue this valuation theme much more than the value creation part of it. If you're creating value, valuation is an automatic consequence of it. Investability becomes an automatic consequence of it. But if you're just pursuing valuation, and in that process compromise on the value that you can create through your product or service, then the startup dies. And I think that, again, is a very important part in a startup's growth. And that can only happen, value gets added through innovation. I mean, look at iPhone, for example. We are talking about the 16th version of an iPhone. And one product launched in about 2008, 2009, and which has continuously been reinvented, re-engineered, and which is being innovated upon by adding newer and newer features, and therefore added value to the customers at almost the same price. That has created one of the largest companies in the world. And that's true of Microsoft, or that's true of many of these Salesforce, and so on. They have chosen one product, and they have continuously invented and reinvented and re-engineered and continuously innovated to make sure that there is additional value being added with every reiteration and with every re-engineering. And finally, in the initial stages of a startup, you have to have passion and persistence, because you're going to have many ups and downs, right? And then you may lose heart and you may give up. But when you will, in the later stages, process excellence and productivity become very important as you scale up and as you grow. So these are the basic things that a startup has to do to be able to succeed and to leverage what is happening in the marketplace.
Fair. And would you say that, what in your mind, what is the role that incubators and accelerators play, given you've been part of some of these and initiators? So how is, the Atul Mission or the other incubators that you've been a part of, how do they sort of help founders sort of, with these opportunities and challenges to maneuver them? I'm guessing one is creating the ecosystem, right? Creating a peer group that you can speak with. But would love to understand how you've seen sort of the initiations that you've taken, initiatives that have been taken, and what are some of these initiatives that can help founders sort of maneuver some of these opportunities and challenges?
Yeah. So in a country like India, Tarana, we incubators and accelerators play a very important role in the growth of the startups, as well as in being able to foster this culture of innovation. You see, if you take an advanced economy like the United States, there is funding available, and we are operating at a different level of the economy, and therefore a different level of capability for supporting startups who are wanting to make it big. In India, we have more than 10,500 engineering institutions, and we have more than 1.5 million schools in our country. We have 50,000 colleges and universities, and we have more than 150 million students who will be entering into the marketplace over the next 5 to 10 years. Now, at the school level, we have launched tinkering labs, more than 10,000 tinkering labs, to foster innovation and a problem-solving mindset. At the university level, for students, how do you enable the bright student, or the student who is interested in innovation and in creating a startup, to be able to support that idea at least for a couple of years, so that they can then stand on their own feet? That is where the incubators and the accelerators come in. And that is why this initiative by the Government of India to set up a number of incubators in universities who will enable that startup to take an idea that they have for creating an impact, and then nurturing them and supporting them over a period of 2 years, 18 months to 2 years, during which time the startup becomes has the ability to stand on their feet and become scalable and step out. So like the child in the womb for 9 months, which when it comes out as a baby, then it is able to blossom and grow. So also the startup requires that initial support in an incubator to be able to reach a stage where they are ready for being able to step out of that shadow of the incubator and stand on their own legs and go and address the market. Now, the incubator plays a vital role in the following things. One, in identifying innovative ideas. So they have outreach events, they have hackathons, they throw challenges in collaboration with the industry. The industry collaborates with the university where there is an incubator and says, these are some of the challenges that we have. And if there is a great idea that can solve this problem, then are there students who would like to start a startup? And in that process, you identify a number of good potential startups that you can nurture. Then the nurturing part involves the incubator will enable them to collaborate, not only with the university resources that are available, research, technology resources that are available, but also with the other VCs, mentors, that mentoring network will be set up. So Atal Incubators, for example, they have set up a mentoring network, and that mentoring network is accessible to everybody. And not only that, different incubators, they have many events together. And so instead of they operating in silos, there is a great synergy that develops between the VC network, the mentoring network, and the supporting networks, HR networks between all these incubators. And that fosters faster development of the startup. The third thing that the incubator does is it brings a richness of a business planning idea to them. So how do you support a business worker? And you may have a great technology idea and you may have a great service idea, but do you have the ability to convert it into a business plan and launch a business out of it? Because many of these students, young startups, they have not had exposure to actually running a business. And so that knowledge and that support that is required in order for them to be able to develop a business plan becomes very important. The other thing is the incubator enables them to have access to the marketplace in terms of customers and so on, because many potential customers, so that's the role of an incubator. How do you have beta sites for customers identified for a startup that is being nurtured there so that they get a chance, and also with the government. Now, the government, for example, has encouraged a MATI Startup Hub or the IDEX, which is Innovations for Defense Excellence. They have encouraged startups who respond to their challenge by giving them an opportunity as a first right to implement that solution for their requirements. And so you now have a market-ready startup as opposed to you having to find a customer, because you already have been supported by the government. There is a portal called GEM, which is Government E-Marketplace. And if you register your startup in that GEM, which has been facilitated by Startup India and Invest India, you will find that you have access now to the government procurement process. And that is facilitated, and therefore you have the opportunity to test your product out. And if it gets accepted, you can get a large contract and thereby then spread your wings into the private sector and other areas. The incubator also plays an important role in running acceleration programs. An acceleration program is for startups which have reached a point where they want to scale. So, from the inception to scale up, and then to finally to an IPO or becoming a public organization. In that journey, you need to be able to have accelerators which can support that. So now you have many accelerators which are supported by DST as well as by MATI. There is an accelerator called Samrid Accelerator, where there is funding enabled for the acceleration journey of a startup along with the industry. The other important thing that happens in the incubator and the accelerator world is that there is a tremendous amount of collaboration that they do with international bodies. So today, for example, Atal Innovation Mission incubators are participating in collaboration with entities abroad, whether it is in Denmark or Germany or Sweden. And there are joint innovation challenges with Israel, with Australia. There is a circular economy challenge that is run every year between India and Australian governments. And this facilitates startups who have solution on water management or agri-tech and so on to be able to collaborate internationally across borders and also find investors for the same. So an incubator plays a very vital role in today's startup journey, and they should know the various schemes that the government has as well as the incubator is providing to be leveraged for their growth and for their scale up. I can't hear you. I think you're mute.
This is very comprehensive. Thank you. I think, and I think you touched upon the point that what's the difference between an incubator and an accelerator and how founders should use it. So I'm going to summarize, we've sort of covered pieces. I think my last question to you would be, or sort of, what advice would you have for founders today? Like you said, it's evolved a lot. So to give a quick background, when I moved back to India in 2006, there were hardly any accelerators. Like we spoke, there were barely any startups. And today we have like, I think 170,000 startups, if I recall you mentioning. So, it's evolved. There's actually an ecosystem. There are incubators, accelerators to support these founders. So given your sort of experience, what would your advice to be to these founders today on how they should, when they think, how should they move forward? And, it could also be what challenges they should be ready for. And, like you said, agility, persistence, I think those are key, right? The ability, you have to have flexibility with having a belief in what you're building. So any advice that you have for founders? We have I think, I assume you have a lot of founders, and what would you tell them to start?
I have a great admiration for founders, and I think I'm not, I really don't want to say I have advice for them, but what I have observed over the years are very successful startups and successful organizations. And in that, there are certain things which are very, very important. One, and I think the theme of this particular conference is very important: thinking big and dreaming big. You have to have that ability to think big and dream big
Out of the box.
because it is very important. But at the same time, such thinking has to be accompanied with a great belief in yourself that you can do it. If you don't have that belief, some people think big and then they say, oh, but this is not within my scope. This is not something that I can do. And as Henry Ford very beautifully put it, both the statements you can and you can't are right. It depends upon how you think. And that's how he created the Ford Motor Company, having that belief that, yes, I can. So a startup founder, from my point of view, has to have that tremendous belief in themselves that they can achieve whatever they have set out to be, and they will. The suggestion that I have is we are in one of the most exciting times in the evolution of our own history in India. We are at a time when we have a lot of things going for our country. We are one of the fastest growing economies of the world. We are growing at 6 to 8%, and hopefully in between 8 to 10% over the next several years. We have one of the youngest countries of the world, and that's going to remain for the next couple of decades. We have technology, which is a great leveler, and we have access to that technology today. We have created an impact in the international market in terms of they recognizing India as a knowledge or an intellectual powerhouse. And that is evident because of this $250 to $300 billion ITS industry, which has come up over the last several years. And that is in the service industry, and that is in a growing economy, knowledge-based economy that is creating great transformations, digital transformations in the world. And we are already there. So now, with all of these coming in together, I think a startup founder should have tremendous belief that they can make an impact, and they will be able to create products and services that are very relevant to the marketplace. We have AI, which has come in a big way, and AI is going to enable you to reimagine the world in every possible direction, whether it is the house that you're sitting in, the theater that you're going to, the hospital that you have to visit, the tourist place that you want to see. In all of this, AI can play a big role in transforming the experience, the user experience, and therefore innovation and entrepreneurship have a place here in India. And no other better country than India with its large demand. As the Honorable Prime Minister said in Atmanirbhar Bharat, there are 5 pillars on which India is growing, Atmanirbhar Bharat. One is the pillar of demographic dividend. Second is the pillar of infrastructure that is required in order to support this entire growth of this country. Then third is the pillar of demand of 1.4 billion people who are going to as there is an aspirational country. We have 300 million people in the middle class rising economy, but we're going to add another 300 million people to that. And where else do you have this demand? And the fourth is the pillar of socio-economic progress that we need, because society, 650,000 villages, 715 districts, 8,000 small towns and cities, all of them have to get converted to smart villages, smart districts, and smart cities. So that's a great opportunity by itself. And then finally, technology, the pillar of technology that brings all the elements together to achieve, growth in all these other four pillars. That is the opportunity for startups. And I believe that the startups have a great opportunity today, and that's why we are seeing one of the fastest growing startup ecosystems in the world. I get very excited when I interact with the young people because they have brilliant ideas, and those ideas just need to see fruition. And you are living in a world of possibilities, and I encourage startups to be confident in their approach.
No, thank you. This is great. I think I'll open it up for questions. I believe one of the questions that came through one of the individuals is asking sort of how does someone when they're starting out, how do they sort of do a proof of concept, without spending too much money? So I guess it's yeah.
It's a very, very good question and a very relevant question. You see, many startups that I have seen, and I do have the opportunity to mentor many of them. When they come up with an idea, they normally do not. There's something called product market fit, right? So you have to achieve product market fit at some point in time. So there is a validation first of the idea that you have to do before you even launch creation of a prototype. And if you do that by running that idea past, so that requires good research, market research that you have to do about, is my solution something that is desired in the marketplace, and what segment of the marketplace is going to require this solution? This is very important. Second is to test out that idea by actually running it and meeting people. Many ideas that I've seen, they have grown in the lab and they have never reached out to the potential customer, and run that idea past them, saying, is this relevant or not? In the US, they have something called ICOPS, which enables that testing and validation of idea before you launch creation of a prototype. And then when you create the prototype, we have to follow, design thinking principles today. Every startup founder should educate themselves on design thinking, because without that, you will end up with a product that does not incorporate the feedback from the continuous feedback that you're getting from the marketplace, and your product doesn't get designed for product market fit. If you follow all these three, participation in challenges that are potential candidates for your solution, and therefore a startup, today there are many challenges. For example, recently, SPJMR and Reserve Bank of India and Yes Bank, they launched a challenge in fintech for rural fintech solutions and so on. And any startup that has an idea on that, they could have responded to that challenge, and then they get funded, and then they get a place to execute that. Organizations like Tata's and Mahindra's and Maruti Suzuki's foundations and so on, innovation foundations have been set up, and they are very active. Hero Honda Foundation has been set up. They all are actively working with universities in launching challenges that are looking for solutions to help them in their market reach and in their innovation. And therefore, a startup should see how you can respond to them, test out your solutions, and they're willing to become customers, the first customers for your product. And that's a great new opportunity that is emerging, because the industry is realizing that these startups can play an important role in their own growth. So this is the way a startup will have to look at, is seeing that its POC is successful, and from that they can launch into the larger marketplace.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, how important is it to build an MVP, minimum viable product, early on, and what should it include? I guess so.
So a minimum viable product is a very important step in before you launch it into a full product, and that can hit the market, right? But it takes time for a minimum viable product to actually become viable. It is not your first idea which gets converted into a product, and that's not the minimum viable product. A minimum viable product is a product that has gone through the process that you just now suggested, the POC, market validation, a few customer validations that this product is relevant and has the desired features that a customer can actually start using this product. And it becomes a minimum viable product when one or two customers, potential customers, are actually using it and saying, hey, this is useful for me. Now, if you add this another 10 features or 5 features to this, you have a customer in us. And you need to, so it's very important, and every startup should achieve a minimum viable product. Or if it is a service oriented startup, then they have to test out that service, whether this service is relevant in the marketplace and how does it play out. Once you have a minimum viable product, then it becomes also available for investors to put in more money for that to be scaled up into a full-fledged launch into a commercial product.
Okay. Then someone's asking which incubator to choose, and as there are many that support my venture. So I'm guessing they're asking how to choose which incubator to go with.
So now, you have different types of incubators. You have technology-based incubators, you have theme-based incubators like DPT supports biotechnology incubators, the agri department supports agri-business incubators, defense and space supports space tech in startups and so on. So you have incubators which are theme-oriented, and then you have general technology-based incubators. When you select an incubator, you have to see what exactly is the type of support that I am looking for, right? Is it funding support? Is it technology support? Is it mentoring support? Is it a research support that is required for me? And which of the incubators are able to facilitate me best in that? It is not too often you select an incubator which says, I'll give you some funding. And that is the worst way of selecting an incubator, right? You just say, oh, I need 30 lakhs. And then what do you get? You get 30 lakhs, but you don't get the other support for your product.
Exactly.
So please do your research. There are, like I said, more than 700 incubators and accelerators in the market. But we need to ensure that these all things are, you select the right incubator based upon your need. And that need should.
I think sometimes people get lost only in the funding and capital, which is important, but you have to balance.
Absolutely.
Next question is, what is more important, hitting the market fast or protecting your idea through patents? I guess it's a tricky one.
Well, it's not that. See, I think hitting the market fast is always an important thing, because in that process, you actually not only have a product which is out there in the market, but patenting has become very easy today. Okay, so I think it is foolish not to patent a product or to protect the IP if that is a worthy IP in that product. You may be leveraging other IPs also in the product, in a licensing mode and so on. So it depends upon the solution that you have created. If that solution has been based upon, and in the AI world, there is more and more opportunity for IP creation because it's your algorithm and your solution that is uniquely enabling an AI-driven solution. But I think if you don't have a market, then even if you patent your product, and there are many patents which are just lying there and which have not hit the market, and there has been no outcome as a result of it. And that's a problem actually that the government of India is also looking at, that a lot of research that is happening and a lot of IPs that are being created. How do you commercialize those IPs? Because they're lying with the organizations that has been created. So IP is very important, intellectual property. I mean, that's the new property. In the earlier days, you used to acquire property to show your wealth. Today, you have IP, which will show the wealth of a country. And so that's very important. But at the same time, hitting the market is as important.
Then what are some of the red flags that are startup ideas that will suggest that a startup idea is unlikely to succeed, and how soon should one accept failure?
Yeah, so grow fast and fail fast is the theme that is often you will hear in the startup circles. I think it's very important for startups to be able to assess themselves. So there has to be a good governance process, and I always recommend that a startup has a good mentor. They should associate themselves with a good mentor who can say that yes, your startup is progressing, not progressing, and to have in the early stages, I mean, once you have launched, if you're getting funding from outside, it's always good to have an advisory committee which is helping the startup assess its own progress. Because without measuring its own progress, after all, at the end of the day, you should have a quarterly, a monthly, a quarterly milestone, and a quarterly milestone breaks down into monthly, and a monthly milestone breaks down into weekly milestones. And you do need that, and constantly measure yourself against how well you're progressing in that. In fact, we have facilitated even for incubators and accelerators and so on in Atal Innovation Mission. We created online dashboards for an ATL, Atal Tinkering Lab, to know its own progress, and an incubator to know its own progress in terms of how are the startups, how many IPs are being created in that incubator, how many startups are actually successfully exiting through investments got from outside, how much external investment a startup has been able to get because of the support that the incubator has. So we advise every incubator that you have to measure your own progress. You have to become self-sustainable rather than being sustainable through grants and so on. And similarly, for a startup, they should become soon their own revenue sustainable rather than being sustainable through additional investments. Of course, additional investments are required as and when you grow, but then your revenue and your profitability, like my CFO in CMC used to say, top line is vanity, bottom line is sanity, and cash flow is reality. So a startup has to keep
Well
that in
said, yeah.
all the time. Yeah.
Okay, I think we're sort of done. There's one last request someone's made, that I believe the Tata Social Innovation Challenge is being conducted now with IIM Calcutta Incubation Center. So if anyone wants to apply, the last date for that is 20th May 2025. So for founders who are out there and looking, maybe this is something they can consider, I guess. With that, I think we can wrap up. Ninand or anyone, if anything.
Yeah, thank you, Tarana. That was delightful conversation. Ramanan, any closing inspiring words for, let's say, young, viewers who, because this is going to go on YouTube as a recorded video also, so it's a permanent thing. What would, let's say, a young girl or boy wanting to become a startup founder, what advice would you give? And then we can wind it up.
Well, the advice that I can give to the young engineers and or young students who are coming out is really be bold in your imagination. Dream big, as Abdul Kalam said. Have tremendous belief in yourself. I always bring to my own mind what Swami Vivekananda used to say. He used to say, if you have belief in 1,000 gods and goddesses and do not have belief in yourself, you're doomed. So we need to have a startup founder particularly has to have that strong belief in themselves. And I would just end with his words again. He said, arise, awake, and stop not till your goals are reached. In the case of a startup, arise to the challenges, but more importantly, the opportunities that are out there in the marketplace. Awaken your own inner talent. Everybody is a born innovator. We always limit ourselves in our thinking that, innovation is in the realm of genius. But actually, what we found in Atal Tinkering Labs and Atal Incubators, where that it was the backbencher students who came out with the most outstanding innovations. It was the rural colleges that came out with the most outstanding innovations. And then we realized that they had that element of innovation capability in them, which was not being tapped by the rote learning that our schools, had a format in. And so we are all born innovators. But we sort of limit ourselves. So awaken that talent and innovative, creative spirit in you, and stop not till your own personal goals are reached. And on a larger scale, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals are reached.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you, Ramanan.
Thank you,
That was
Ramanan.
inspiring enough.
Thanks, Ninand.
Thank you,
It's inspired
Tarana.
me. These words have inspired me, so I hope it
Yeah,
inspires.
yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank
Tarana, for moderating, and
No,
thank you.
not at all.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.